The shouting hit me before I even turned around, and I knew exactly who it was aimed at. The mess hall on Cauldron Station never really goes quiet. 400 cadets from 9 different worlds eating, arguing, comparing scores. But the noise around my table had just changed, and it changed fast, the way a room does right before something bad happens. I was 3 bites into my meal when I heard him. Threx Bull, wing captain of the 2nd flight. Built like a loading door, with a voice made to fill a room and make everyone in it feel small. Only got in because of the quota seat, he said, loud enough for the whole hall to hear. You people can't even hold a pressure suit right. Command should never have let soft worlders into this program. I did not need to turn around to know who he was talking to. Alina, my bunkmate. Small, quiet, brilliant with numbers, and about a third of his size. She sat there gripping her tray, knuckles pale, saying nothing, because saying nothing was the only shield she had left. That was not going to keep happening while I was sitting 12 feet away. I stood up. The sound in the hall did something strange. It did not stop all at once. It drained away, table by table, as more cadets noticed something was about to happen. By the time I reached his table, the whole hall had gone quiet enough that I could hear the air vents humming above us. Threx Bull turned his head toward me, mandibles clicking together in what I had learned was his species' version of amusement. "The human speaks," he said. "Come to defend your little friend? I came to ask you to sit down." That got a laugh from the 3 wingmates standing behind him. A big laugh, the kind meant for the crowd, not for me. "You are going to make me," he said, leaning down into my space, using every bit of his height to do it. He was close enough that I could smell the ration paste on his breath. I did not step back. I had learned that stepping back only invited more of this. Instead, I studied him the way you study a wall before you decide where to put your hand. Here is something most cadets never learn until it is too late. His people, the Dralith, have skulls built like armor. Thick, dense, made for headbutting rivals back on their homeworld without so much as a headache afterward. But no creature evolves protection for every part of its body. There is always a place that stays soft. I did not wind up. There was no dramatic swing, nothing built for a show. Just my hand, moving fast and controlled, meeting the soft point beneath his jaw where sound and breath both pass through. He staggered back, one hand flying to his throat, and folded down onto the bench behind him, wheezing, unable to make a sound louder than a rasp. His mandibles clicked with nothing behind them. Nobody in that hall moved, nobody spoke. His 3 wingmates, who had been laughing 30 seconds earlier, stood frozen, watching their captain gasp for air that would not quite come. I looked down at him. "I asked you to sit. You did. Close enough." Then I picked up my tray, walked back to my seat, and continued eating, because the meal was not going to finish itself, and I had a training exam in 2 hours. Alina stared at me, somewhere between shocked and holding back a laugh she was too nervous to let out. "You are going to get written up for that," she whispered. "Probably," I said, and kept eating. Behind me, 2 of his wingmates helped him up, and the sound in the hall slowly returned, except now it carried a different kind of energy, the sound of 400 cadets who had just watched the quiet human girl end an argument with one movement, and then go back to her lunch like nothing had happened. I did get written up. Sergeant Ioha called me into his office the next morning and read the complaint out loud with an expression that sat somewhere between official disappointment and something he was clearly trying to hide. "Cadet, do you understand that Threx Bull outweighed you by nearly 90 kilograms? "Yes, Sergeant." "And that you struck a ranking wing captain in front of the entire cadet body?" "Yes, Sergeant." He set the datapad down on his desk. "He has filed a formal complaint, says you attacked him without reason. There are about 400 witnesses who would tell you differently." "I already pulled the hall recordings," he said, and something close to a smile crossed his face before he pushed it away. You are getting 3 days of extra duty for conduct unbecoming a cadet. Understood, Sergeant. And for what it is worth, he added, the entire second flight wing has requested to be moved out of joint training exercises with first flight for the rest of the term. Because of me? Because not one of them wants to find out what happens the next time a soft worlder runs out of patience. I saluted, took my 3 days, and did not regret a single hour of it. The extra duty meant early mornings cleaning the training bay before anyone else arrived, scrubbing panels and checking gear that did not need checking. It was quiet work, the kind that gives you too much time to think, and I spent most of it turning over the same question. Why had he chosen Alina? Why did he always choose the ones who would not fight back? On the second morning, I found out I was not the only one thinking about it. Petra, one of the instructors who ran orbital navigation, was waiting near the bay entrance when I arrived to start my shift. You caused quite a stir, she said, arms crossed, watching me carefully. I did what needed doing. That is one way to describe knocking out a wing captain in front of the entire mess hall. He was not knocked out. He was just quiet for a while. She almost smiled at that, then her face turned serious again. You should know something, since you are clearly not going to hear it from him. Threx Bull has done this before. Different cadet, different year, same pattern. He picks someone smaller, someone from a species people underestimate, and he pushes until they break or until they leave the program. Why has nobody stopped him? Because nobody wanted to be the one to try, she said. His father sits on the regional council. People worry about consequences. That explained the tight look on Sergeant Ioha's face when he mentioned the complaint. It was not really about whether I was right. It was about whether the truth would matter against someone with that kind of family behind him. So what happens now? I asked. Now, she said, the review board hears both sides. Tomorrow, actually. I thought you should know before you walked in blind. I thanked her and went back to scrubbing panels, though my mind was somewhere else entirely. The review board met in a small room with gray walls and a long table, 5 instructors seated behind it. Threx Bull on one side of the room with his father's name practically hovering in the air around him, and me on the other side, alone, because Alina had offered to come and I had told her not to. This was not going to be a fight I dragged her into a second time. Threx Bull spoke first, describing an unprovoked assault, a human who attacked without warning, a captain simply trying to keep discipline among his wing. He was good at it. His voice had the same command it always carried in the mess hall, confident, practiced, sure that the room would side with him the way it always had before. Then they played the recording. Every word he had said to Alina came through clearly. Every laugh from his wingmates, my warning to him, calm and clear, asking him only to sit down, and then the moment itself, quick, controlled, nothing more than what it needed to be, followed by silence, and my simple statement afterward. The room stayed quiet for a long moment after the recording ended. One of the instructors, an older woman with sharp eyes, turned to Threx Bull. Explain to me again how this was unprovoked. He did not have a good answer, because there was not one to give. The board's decision came an hour later. Threx Bull was suspended from his position as wing captain for the remainder of the term, required to complete conduct retraining, and formally warned that any repeat behavior would result in removal from the program entirely. My extra duty stood, since striking another cadet was still against the rules no matter the reason, but the complaint against me for unprovoked assault was dismissed outright. Sergeant Ioha found me afterward in the hallway. You handled that well, he said. Better than most cadets twice your experience would have. I did not do anything special. I just did not stay quiet. That is the special part, he said. Most people do stay quiet. It is easier. I thought about that for the rest of the day, through my final hour of extra duty, through dinner, through the walk back to my quarters where Alina was waiting with 2 cups of something warm she had traded for using her last credits. I heard what happened, she said, handing me a cup. Petra told me everything. You did not have to trade for that. I wanted to. She sat down across from me, turning her cup slowly in her hands. You know, I used to think being quiet was the safe thing to do. That if I just kept my head down, none of it would matter eventually. And now I think staying quiet just gives people like him more room to keep going. She looked up at me. Thank you for not letting me stay quiet that day. I did not have a clever answer for that, so I just nodded and drank my tea, watching the lights of the station drift past the small window in our quarters, thinking that somewhere out there, in a room with a long table and 5 instructors, a report was being filed that would follow Threx Bull for the rest of his career. Not because of what I had done in a single moment, but because enough people, finally, had been willing to look closely and admit what they saw. The next morning, the mess hall was loud again, back to its normal roar of 400 cadets from 9 different worlds. Nobody shouted across the room this time. Nobody needed to. I sat down next to Alina, picked up my tray, and started eating. And for the first time in 8 months on that station, the noise around us felt exactly like what it should have been all along. Just breakfast.